It's time now for the Success is Subjective podcast. Here is your host and therapeutic consultant for young adults only, Joanna Lilley.
Hi, and welcome to the show. Today, my guest is Eileen Der Aris. Eileen's passion has always been to help people see their true potential while feeling proud of who they are. As the owner of Rising Adults Coaching, Eileen is grateful to fulfill her mission to empower young people between the ages of 17 and 29 to gain the clarity and confidence they need to move forward throughout this exciting period of their lives. She attended one of the most preeminent coach training schools in the industry, IPEC, and holds an advanced certification as an Energy Leadership Index Master Practitioner. In addition to her coaching certification, Eileen is a NYS certified teacher and NYS certified special education teacher, as well as a mother of 2 young adults of her own. Eileen has a solid grasp of how challenging this age can be for both the young person and the parent. If you want to learn more, definitely check out her website, which will be in the show notes. But let's not wait any further. Here's the interview with Eileen on today's edition of Success is Subjective. All right, well, Eileen, I'm really excited to have you as a guest on the podcast. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much, Joanna. I'm really excited.
Oh, me too. We've only spoken once, and I loved when we connected. I loved learning about what you did and hearing how you came to the place of like doing the work that you're doing. And so obviously I'm kind of teasing the audience right now, teeing them up to you telling your story. But let's just dive in because I don't know the full extent. Where did you actually grow up, and what was the messaging that you were hearing around like what you were supposed to do around like after high school?
I grew up on Long Island in New York, and I always knew I wanted to help people in some shape or form. And I graduated college as a teacher, a special ed teacher, continued to do that for quite some time. And then back in 2013, I went to a program called IPEC. Found out later it was one of the better coaching programs. I'm like, woo, loved every minute of it. This is the first time that I've been to school, and I have a master's degree, where I loved every little bit from beginning to end. It was fantastic, a lot of work, but I got to learn about myself as an individual because you can't help others until you really get it yourself. And then from there, back up one quick second, that when I was growing up, I didn't have a lot of confidence. Growing up was very hard for me. I was bullied. I was bullied by teachers and young people. It was rough. So that's what helped me develop the grit and the empathy, so I could be there for other people. I could really put my feet in their shoes and imagine how they might be feeling.
Wow.
Did I answer your question?
Yes. Well, and I'm just kind of curious, at what point, like, did somebody say like, hey, Eileen, you should become a coach? Or like, how did you even hear about the IPEC program? Like, how did that come to be? And obviously it was exactly what you needed. And, it was not just what you needed personally, but professionally, right? Like that was the path. But how did you even hear about it?
So like many of us, and like every one of my clients, I went through a period in my life where I said, I don't know what I want to do. The teaching piece wasn't working out for me. And I went to see something called a life coach. What the heck is a life coach? But I learned from this same woman as me, age. I learned from this woman about how to understand the world from a perspective differently than I was looking at it. And I didn't know what that meant. It sounded like a lot of, fluff. But I really had the opportunity to learn how to switch my perspective from, same thing every day, blah, 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 to switching the perspective and looking at the world of, wow, what are the opportunities out there? And instead of saying, oh, I made a mistake, saying, okay, I made a choice and I learned from it. How can I move on next and use that information to help me? So in going for the life coach, she said to me, Eileen, I've never said this to a client before, but you would love this. That's how I backed up, found out the program she was in, and I went through the program. I finished it in 9 months. It could take a year or more for some people to finish. And then I worked with parents for a few years. And you know what I learned? A lot of us parents don't want to always help themselves. but they really want to help their young people. So that was hard because I enjoyed working with the parents, but I saw there was such a need for young adults. And then, Joanna, as you might remember, I had my own personal issues. So I'm a mom now of two 20-somethings. And when they were in their teens, my daughter started experiencing depression and anxiety, where she would FaceTime me from school, Joanna, in tears, having trouble functioning, having trouble going to classes. I felt like I was in a rabbit hole, reaching with my arms to hold her from slipping down. It was so painful for her and for me. Not too long later, my son started having anxiety. I found him on the floor of his bedroom. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, I don't know. And I said, oh my gosh. So I put myself into therapy because I knew as a parent coach, if you don't help yourself and you don't work on your own stuff, if you will, there's no way you can be there for them. So that's what I did. And that's when I came to the conclusion that this generation is having a tough time. And this was before COVID, so you can only imagine. And that was when in 2019, when I discovered about how I could work with young adults to help them gain more confidence and clarity so they could figure out what in the world they want to do next. And by the way, my kids are doing very well now. My daughter went back to school. She became a social worker. My son is working in a contracting business, and they both bought their own houses, believe it or not. And I'm about to be an empty nester.
Wow.
Crazy, right? I was actually just tearing up before I came on here, Joanna, thinking about how he's about to leave on Saturday. Real life stuff, you know?
Wow. Talk about transitions.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that's the part that when I work with the young people, for a lot of, with the parents as well, I get it. I don't just get it because I have, coaching certification. I get what it feels like. I get what it feels like to grow up without a lot of confidence, without feeling supported. I get what it looks like to understand how to shift your perspective, how it actually freaking works. And I get what it feels like to be the mom of young people where it seems like everybody else's kid has got it figured out but mine. Not true, by the way, but that's what everybody feels like. And I've been there too. And using that real life experience is how I help others.
Well, and it's like, it's just kind of oozing out of you, this being your calling, truly, based on your own personal experiences, but and what it is that merging together with what you're passionate about and see that you excel in that space by helping others. So how do people find you? Let me just ask this question. If somebody's listening and they're like, okay, my young adult needs to work with Eileen, how do they reach out to you?
Well, I have a website, first of all. It's www.risingadultscoaching.com. And I was just going on there, reading all about me, because I'm not into the fake stuff. I put the real me in there, so you'll get more of an idea of who I am and what I do, and you can contact me from there. I would say that's the best way to go in order to contact me. But you could also email me at eileen@risingadultscoaching.com.
And we'll make sure we have both of those links in the show notes. But I think the other thing that's important to know, I'm just kind of thinking about your own journey, your children's journey, and then the work that you're doing navigating journeys for young adults, especially for those who are really just, like you said, they were struggling before the pandemic as a generation as a whole. And so there's just so much that is either internally or externally put in place to create a barrier for them to feel self-confident or having a direction or feeling like they have the skills to be able to do what they need to do, like buy a house. All of that is just, there's a lot that is set up against them right now. And so I'm just kind of curious from your perspective, if you are working with a young adult who is really struggling with this idea of overwhelm around, I don't know what to do. I don't know what path to pursue. what types of advice, and maybe advice isn't the right word, right, when you're in that coaching space. So how are you helping them to understand like ways in which they can figure out a path with it being digestible?
It's a great question, Joanna. And the bottom line really is confidence, learning to know who you are. And honestly, that goes at any age. I'm just working now with young people, but that's the baseline for everything. So I tell people, I can sit and hand feed you if go get this job, go get this, but that's not really my major focus. My major focus is giving the young people the opportunity to understand themselves first. And we all say that, oh, sure, I know who I am. But do you really? I want to know what makes you tick. So for example, what gets you so excited about something that you get all pumped and you like to talk about it with people? Or what really pisses you off? What is it when people say that it really just rubs you the wrong way? These types of questions really give you a heads up to understanding who you are, what is really most important to you. So I go into detail to help you discover what your values are. Are you a person who loves adventure? Are you a person who really has to be with somebody in life that you feel that you need the trust? Do you live every day as if something new is happening, or do you really like consistency and just getting to know who you are as an individual will give you the baseline. So what I do is I do a lot of things like that. I also help young people recognize their thought patterns. It's funny when I say it just sounds so dry, but what it really means is we all make movies in our minds. So the example I often give is you send somebody a text and you don't get a response. And the menagerie of thoughts that goes on in all our minds is that, when that happens, did I say something to annoy them? Am I texting them too much? Maybe they're trying to tell me blah, 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 blah. Then we live as if that's true. So while that's happening, we're mad and they shouldn't have done when they just forgot to respond, maybe. My point is not to live as if our thoughts are always true without challenging them. We don't have the ability to necessarily control our thoughts, but we do have the ability to how we respond to them. And when you have the power, when you see that you have the ability to make choices of how you see things, it makes you look at the world in a whole different way. So common thoughts that people have at this age are, everybody knows what to do but me, or you can't get a job unless you have full experience ahead of time, or I've tried to ask somebody out on a date before and they said no, so I'm not going to do that again. Or I have those deep thoughts in my mind that say, I'm not good enough. And aren't they true? So all these types of things that we have in our heads, when you start to have the recognition, the awareness, that's when you get to take the control. You get the opportunity to say, you know what? I could look at it as, holy cow, I have to go find a job and there's no jobs out there and I'll never find anything. Or you could reframe it. And I would ask them, what's another way to look at that? All right, you know what? There's a lot of jobs out there, but I'm going to get one and I'm excited about it. And you know what? If the first one doesn't work, I may be really upset, but it'll teach me what I want and what I don't want in the future. Wow. What clients often say to me is, I never thought of it that way before. And I said, well, how would it look in your life if you started to look at it more that way? And they'll give me a list. It'll make me feel more confident. It'll make me feel more motivated. It'll make me feel more excited. Well, how do you like that? It's all in how you choose to show up. It's cool stuff. And I have to walk the talk too, Joanna. I can't just, teach people this. I got to do this. I got tough times too. And I always share that I have a life coach. All really good life coaches have been to life coaches themselves, not because there's something wrong or there's something broken. It's because life coaching helps you move from where you are now to move forward. It's not the same as therapy, although there is overlap, but it's an opportunity to look at something from another perspective. So the example I give, as real as it is, I always tell the young people, I go on Facebook and I say, I know you could laugh. My generation goes on Facebook. But I see other life coaches and they're doing other really cool things. And my mind starts with, am I supposed to be doing that? Oh, shoot. I should have done it that way. And then I go, I'm doing it. All right, let me back up here. And I challenge myself. How true do you know that this is happening for them, or that you have no idea. I have no idea either. So when I challenge it, then I could look at the situation from another perspective and move forward with that information. After I do a lot of that with my clients, then I help them come up with a plan, if they choose, of what they want to do for a year from now. A lot of times they have ideas of what they want to do, but they think they're not good enough, or they think that they can't. And again, in challenging those thoughts, a lot of more stuff comes out. And then we work together. And what do you want to do from a year from now? Okay, I want to live in an apartment by myself. Fantastic. What would you have to do 6 months from now to get to that point? What would you have to do 3 months? How could you start? And we break it down into more realistic goals so they can work towards that progress.
Wow. Okay, so as you're talking, I'm just picturing this. It's so exciting. Again, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I need my own life coach right now. That is my takeaway in this moment.
We all do.
We do.
Like I said, I see mine when I go online and I get in my head that I'm not doing something right. That's when I have a session with her, and she helps me look at it from another perspective. And I said, that is exactly what I needed. Thank you. Anybody could get something out of a life coach. That's what they're there for. It's cool stuff.
Okay, so for somebody that maybe is hung up on your comment, I'm gonna ask you another follow-up. You said, hey, sometimes there's a little bit of overlap with a therapist and a life coach. So I'm like, but in my head, I was processing, this is how I differentiate it. So I'm gonna share this, and I want you to tell me how you would respond, or what you think might be different. So when I think about a therapist, I think about somebody that's going because there is a deeper level of emotional or mental need. There's anguish. There's so much barrier that it's not even about solutions or forward work. We have to get to the core of where this is coming from. The awareness needs to come in there before we can even move forward and talk about well, where do you want to go, or how do you build the self-confidence? Whereas on the flip side, I feel like with a coach, we are talking about the why, what's going on, right? What are the struggles? Well, I do struggle with self-confidence, but we're not digging into the core of where does that come from necessarily, although you are talking about values, right? Values-based work, but our focus is, again, the awareness. And now let's get you actionable ways in which you can build self-confidence and move forward. What do you think? Do I do a good job? How would you describe it differently?
I love that. Getting to the core. So no, that's what I'm taking from you, and it's a really good thing. What I often share is that there is overlap. You're going to see a lot of similarities. Each coach and each therapist, for that matter, have their own strategies of how they work with people. So I always am very clear that I am not a certified therapist, and it would be unethical for me to do any type of therapy. That's not what I'm here for. So if I have a parent or a young person come to me, I listen to where they are in their lives, and if they're feeling a heavy depression, anxiety, or things like that are getting in the way, that's not what I'm qualified to do, and I will refer to them to a therapist. Because like you said, a therapist does more healing, right? A therapist will have more strategies of how to get to that core, as you put it. A therapist does more advising a lot of times, although not all, and really can help diagnose and maybe give you a name to what's going on and have strategies to work their way out of that area where it's difficult to even function. So I mentioned earlier my daughter. Initially when she was having that tough time a bunch of years back, I sent her to a coach, and that coach right away said, no, therapy is what she needs now, right? Because that's where she was in her life. And a lot of us have that, the times where we need to do that. I don't knock therapy. I think therapy is amazing. I've done it. I think it's a fantastic thing. It's just not what I'm qualified to do. There is overlap when they tell me that they have a voice in their head that's saying, I'm not good enough. And I'd say, well, where does that come from? Whose voice is that? So yeah, you're digging it back a little bit there, but I really focus more on helping them move forward. Let's see what we can do about moving forward. I have had many clients actually who are doing it in tandem, who see a therapist and coaching, and they'll save, that type of information to work with their therapist where I help them move forward. Does that answer the question?
Totally. Yeah. Well, and it's healthy to hear. I think you really hit the nail on the head where it is every professional is different too, and what every young person, and let's just say young adults, because that's who we both work with. Every young adult, what they need at a specific point in their life is also different. So it's a lot of like kind of matchmaking or attempting to matchmake and what's appropriate and who do you need. And it's not just who do you need and what hat do they wear, but it's also just a like personality fit. And so I think that that's also something to consider. I've got two questions in quick succession. First one, if Eileen, circa 17, 18 years old, who's graduating high school right now, were to get like a beam of what and who and how Eileen now is showing up in the world, how do you think she would respond? What would be her reaction?
If she saw how I was right now in my life as compared to them, she'd be in awe. 17-year-old Eileen did not believe in herself at all, had very little confidence, thought that the whole world was sort of just obstacles to overcome without seeing the joy. I had felt that everything was very hard to do. And if that person saw me now, they'd say, wow, that's so cool. Yay, go you. That's what she would say. And she would have less fear and less worry. And if I had to switch it the other way and I went back to talk to my 17-year-old self, I would tell her, it's not as hard as it looks. And it's not just you. It's like that for everybody. So just kind of go and do your thing. And and this is the biggest thing I tell every client now, you don't have to have your entire life figured out in the next 6 months or even by tomorrow. It feels like you do, okay, you're 21, you graduated college, or 18, graduated high school, and boom, you have to know what you're doing for the next 40 years. No, it doesn't work like that, especially not these days. So that's the other thing I would tell 17-year-old Eileen.
Love it. Thank you for doing the inverse of that too, because that is, again, it's all about hindsight, right? We're talking about prediction and we're also talking about reflection, which is, it's just fascinating to hear kind of, again, your own transformation and then being able to kind of look back or look forward in your life. So last question.
Yeah.
Knowing where you've been, the work that you're doing, and also still just highlighting that it is just kind of coming out of you how passionate this is, like how passionate you are about this work and who it is that you're helping and how this really fills you up. I'm saying this just based on like how I'm hearing and seeing you talk about the work that you do. Do you see yourself as successful?
Yes. It took a while for me to really be able to define that. And that is a question I ask my clients. And it's really kind of cool because they all give me a different answer about a lot of things for that matter. And it helps me learn as an individual. But yes, I'm successful. I had my own, what I call limiting, or a lot of us call limiting beliefs. And they're part of those messages I told you before, where we tell ourselves, we can't do this. This is too hard. And I didn't believe I could run a business. I didn't know anything about business. I was a teacher. That's it. So when I was going through the program, they brought up business and I thought, I can't do that. I'm not a business person. I don't know the first thing. And then I went, look at it. I'm doing it. I'm doing exactly that. All right. And I challenged myself. Well, what could you do if you don't feel like you know a lot about business? Well, I could read. I could go into, networking groups. I could talk to people. I could take a class. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And what happens, if I need help? Well, I could find other people to ask. And then the scariest question of all, Joanna, what if it doesn't work out? And I thought, okay, if it doesn't work out, then I know that I tried. I know that I put the effort in. I know that I did it, that I pushed myself out of that comfort zone. And here I am, 10 years later, I'm still coaching.
Woo!
So
Celebrating
yes,
for you.
I'm successful.
That's awesome. Well, Eileen, thank you for being a guest on the podcast. And also just thank you for being you. You're awesome. Like you're just a good human. And I hope that more people listening to this podcast connect with you to then connect their young adult to you, because very clearly you can move mountains, helping young adults figure out what it is that they're good at.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joanna. And I enjoyed talking to you. I've enjoyed you and I. We have the same enthusiasm about helping people. And, when people like you and I are out there making the difference in the world, it's something to feel really proud of. So I'm grateful to know you, and for all your listeners out there to get everything that they do from you as well, about how we feel about success and how it's different for everybody.
That's it for this week's Success is Subjective episode. We want to thank our guest for joining Joanna on the show this week and for being willing to share your journey. This podcast would not exist if it weren't for people such as yourself. Stay tuned for our next episode, where you can bet it'll be another amazing human sharing their personal story with the world. Make sure you check out the show notes, where you will find contact information, website details, and all social media for our guest. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, you can email joanna@lilleyconsulting.com. Be sure to check out the lilleyconsulting.com website for additional resources outside of podcasting. Now, if you're listening to the show on Apple Podcasts, please subscribe. And while you're at it, feel free to leave a review. You can also download to listen to the Success is Subjective podcast on other popular podcast apps, such as Audible, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn Radio. Thanks again for listening in, and remember, there is no single path through life. Success is what you make it.
Do you have a teenager or young adult who seems to have lost their way? Maybe they need help navigating adolescence, adulthood, and decisions surrounding higher education. Or maybe they have become withdrawn, their grades are slipping, or they are flat out living a reckless lifestyle, and you're concerned about their health and well-being. If this describes what your teen or young adult is facing, a therapeutic consultant may be able to help. Mental health, addiction recovery, and higher education can all be equally expensive. Well, information is everywhere. How do you know what option is the best one for your family? Some parents have the time to research and navigate this on their own. Some don't. If the latter applies to you, enter therapeutic consultants. Therapeutic consultants, like Joanna, listen to your family's specific needs and advocate on behalf of your loved one. TCs will research therapeutic resources, recommend treatment programs, and assist during adulthood transitions. Not being affiliated with any program, their support is completely objective and catered toward the best interest of each unique family. To find a qualified therapeutic consultant to work with, check out TCA, also known as the Therapeutic Consulting Association. Their website is therapeuticconsulting.org, all one word. Again, that's therapeuticconsulting.org. Then click the Find a Pro tab up at the top.